the biggest scandal at your high school? Our queen bee Giselle hadn't shown up to school in 3 days, and when I saw her best friend crying in the bathroom, I knew something was seriously wrong. The police said she ran away, but Giselle was supposed to be valedictorian, had just gotten into Yale, and never seemed like she had any problems in the world. Why would she run? Her boyfriend Miles wouldn't even look at me when I asked when he'd last seen her, just mumbled something about a fight and walked away. So I started investigating. The first thing I found was hidden in her locker when I convinced the janitor to let me grab something I'd supposedly left in there. Behind her perfect color-coded notebooks was a burner phone with messages from someone saved as just X talking about meeting up for supplies and how she owed him $3,000. The texts got increasingly threatening, saying she couldn't just walk away, that she knew what would happen if she tried to quit. I went to the address from one of the messages and found this rundown house on the edge of town, where older guys were always hanging around. One of them recognized Giselle's photo immediately and said she used to come by every week to pick up party favors that she'd sell to rich kids at private school parties. He said she was trying to get out of the business, but you don't just leave when you owe money. And the last time he saw her, she had a bruised jaw that she blamed on walking into a door. I found out she'd been arrested 2 months ago for possession with intent to distribute, but her parents had hired a lawyer who kept it quiet. The court date was in 2 weeks, and if convicted, Yale would rescind her acceptance, and her whole perfect future would collapse. I cornered Miles in the parking lot after school, and he tried to get into his car, but I blocked the door. "Just tell me what happened between you two," I said. His hands were shaking as he lit a cigarette, something I'd never seen him do before. "You want to know what happened? She hit me first," he said, pulling up his sleeve to show scratch marks. "We were fighting about the pills she was selling, and she went crazy, started screaming that I didn't understand, that she needed the money for something important." He took a long drag and looked away. "So yeah, I grabbed her arms to stop her from hitting me, and maybe I held on too hard, but I didn't. I would never." His voice cracked. "She said she was going to end everything, make a clean break, and I thought she meant us, but maybe she meant something else. But then I found out about the teacher, Mr. Harris, who taught AP history and was married with 2 kids. Giselle's friend admitted she'd been seeing him secretly for months, meeting at hotels 2 towns over, and he'd been giving her money for the business ventures she was involved in. She had photos of them together on a hidden Instagram account, and in the last one she posted, you could see fear in her eyes even though she was smiling. I followed Mr. Harris to his house after school and watched from across the street as he built a fire in his backyard. He was throwing in papers, and I could see the orange flames reflected in his glasses as he watched them burn. His wife came outside and said something sharp that I couldn't hear, but he just kept feeding papers into the fire. When they both went inside, I crept over and grabbed a half-burned page that had blown away from the pile. It was a printed email from Giselle. "If you don't leave your wife like you promised, I'm telling everyone everything. You can't buy my silence anymore." At the bottom, in his handwriting, "If you tell anyone, I'll destroy you first." I looked up and saw his wife watching me from the kitchen window, and she just stood there for a moment before slowly closing the curtains. The dealer from the house called me and said Giselle had come by the night she disappeared, paid off her whole debt in cash, and said she was done forever. He said she seemed scared, kept checking her phone, and mentioned she had one more meeting to get through before she could leave town. He didn't know who with, but she'd said it was someone who could ruin her life if she didn't show up. I found her car hidden behind an abandoned warehouse by the river, the doors unlocked and her phone still inside. There was blood on the driver's seat. Not a lot, but enough to make my stomach drop. Her packed suitcase was in the trunk, along with $10,000 in cash and a bus ticket to Portland leaving that same night. She'd been planning to run, had almost made it, but something stopped her. Following the trail from her car, I walked through the woods toward the river, and that's when I saw something pink caught on a branch. It was her sweater, the one she'd worn in her last Instagram post, torn and muddy. My hands were shaking as I followed the path deeper into the woods, finding more pieces of evidence like breadcrumbs leading to something I didn't want to find. I found Giselle at the bottom of the ravine, partially hidden under fallen leaves, still wearing her Yale sweatshirt. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing, and there were bruises around her throat that told me this wasn't an accident or suicide. Someone had killed her and left her here where they thought no one would look. Standing there in the fading light, I thought about everyone who had a reason to want her gone. Miles with his violent temper, Mr. Harris with his career to protect, the dealer she owed money to, even her parents who couldn't handle the shame. But which one of them had actually done it? Full story on the channel below.